Many years ago, I would frequent Las Vegas strip clubs. Now, not for the reason you think. At the time, I was considered for many years to be Las Vegas's #1 acting instructor. Also, I'm a professional numerologist. I've done thousands of charts for people all over the world. And I found that going into strip clubs was could be a very fertile ground to find potential female acting students and to get numerology readings. So I would go in there not really to get dances, but I'd have a pocket full of business cards. Now, to me, strip clubs are rather absurd and rather ridiculous, in my opinion. Nothing against most of the ladies that dance in there. That's their way of earning money. But the whole concept of a strip club is kind of absurd. Because you get these guys going in there and just plunking down hundreds of dollars, in some cases thousands of dollars, hoping that their next $20 is going to convince that dancer to go home with them. Well, the only thing that dancer is going to go home with is as many $20 bills as she can get from you. Also, it's always, to me, a win-win situation for the dancer and a lose-lose situation for the guy, because he winds up, more horny after the dance than he was before the dance. It also kind of reminds me of my experience going to a nude beach. The first couple of times I went to a nude beach, it was like, oh, wow, it was like a little kid in a candy store. Then after that, it was like, no big deal. Everybody's got these body parts, and hey, what's the big deal? Now, it's kind of the same thing at the strip club. After the first couple of times, on a nude beach, you obviously get to see, if you're looking at a woman, get to see the whole enchilada. Or I guess in that case, the whole taco. But strip clubs, unless you go to a all nude, you just basically get to see boobs and ass. And after a while, and even if it's a nude strip club, it's kind of just, after a while, it's like, what's the big deal? Now, one of the things that I found interesting, or a few of the things, was the response that ladies would give me. Some of them were really cool. They'd say, come up and say, would you like a dance? And I'd say, well, I'm not really here for a dance. I just want to pass out some cards. And they'd go, oh, well, what do you do? And we'd start a conversation, and some of them would wind up, becoming an acting student of mine, or they would get a numerology reading or something. Other ones would get so nasty and so mean, they'd go, well, you're not here to get a dance? And I'd say, well, not really. And they'd go, well, get the fuck out then. And I'd always respond, well, I paid my money to get in here. I'm buying, well, in my case, non-alcoholic beer, but I'm still paying for it. And I'd say, I paid my money, so I'm going to stay in here as long as I want to. So don't tell me what to do. So it was interesting to see their response. The other thing was interesting to see. Now, in our society, it's kind of set up where men always are the ones pretty much that have to face rejection. They have to approach the woman, whether it's in a nightclub or in a 7-Eleven or a Starbucks or whatever. They're the ones that have to approach the woman, and they have to put themselves in the place to get either accepted or rejected. In the clubs, it's kind of different. A woman comes up to you and asks you for a dance, and you go, well, I'm not really interested. Some of them are really cool. You can just see the look on their face like, well, okay, that's cool. They understand that's the nature of the business. Other ones get really hurt, really angry, really pissed off. So it was kind of interesting to see when the shoe's on the other foot. Another thing that was quite interesting to see is sometimes I'd be in these clubs and I'd look around, and all of a sudden I'd see one of my female acting students who was already an acting student. And I knew, well, we were going to bump into each other sooner or later in the club, so I'd always just walk up to her, tap her on the shoulder, and she would usually be shocked as shit, like, oh my God, my acting instructor is here. And I'd be a little embarrassed too. But I'd always try to diffuse the situation, and I would say something like, hey, I don't care, I couldn't care less what you do for a living. It makes no difference to me whatsoever, which is the truth. And the other thing that I sometimes I would say, I'd try to make a joke or something, and I'd say, you know what? Hey, you're earning money. You have money to pay for your acting lessons. That's cool. Or you even get to practice your craft of acting right here on the job. you actually get to act, or try to act, like you actually give a shit about the guys you're dancing for. And they usually would find that kind of funny. So, and I'd always tell them, you know, look, if I see you giving a guy a lap dance in here, I'm just going to walk the other way, turn the other way. I'm not going to look at you. I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, and I'd always honor that, you know. Now, I have nothing at all, anything against strippers. Whatever you do is what you do. What I haven't, just a problem with is the fucking attitude of some of them. And like I said, some of them are just really cool. They're in there making more money than they can make at a desk job. In fact, the very first stripper I ever met, I met her in a health food store. And she invited me, actually asked me to come over and where she danced. And she actually really wasn't a dancer per se. She was from Texas. She had her own band, and they needed $50,000 to make a music video. She came here and worked for about 4 or 5 months and went home with the $50,000 for her music video. But some of the strippers, very young, 23, 24 years old, some of them have their own car, Corvette, Mercedes, whatever. They already own their own home. And I met quite a few that just have this arrogant, like bitchy, I'm so better than you attitude, because they have these material things and make 6 figures a year. Well, to those, I just want to say, no, you're not better than me. You're not better than anybody else. The only reason you are pulling down 6 figures a year is because you were born with tits, ass, and a pussy. And often the tits are not the ones you were born with. But you were born with tits, ass, and a pussy, and you're willing to shake them in guys' faces for whatever money you can get. So don't give me this fucking attitude that you're better than anybody. And that's only directed to those kinds of strippers with those attitudes. It's just kind of interesting how strip clubs and dancers and numerology readings and acting all kind of played a part in at least a section of my life. So thank you for all the dancers who took my classes and did numerology readings. Appreciate it.